Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 86 of the Hardly Millennial podcast, where we are young, dumb, and full of
Opiniones!
opiniones.
Happy Cinco de Mayo!
Happy Cinco de Mayo. That is Justin across from me, in case you guys weren't able to recognize his voice, which at this point you should.
I feel so welcome on the day of our people, my people.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, for those who don't know, Justin's got technically a quarter Mexican in him, but he actually grew up in Mexico, which makes him more Mexican than most of you people out there. So fuck you.
Si, señor. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about this year's Cinco de Mayo because in my older age, which is not that old, but millennials like to call themselves old even if they're not.
He's 24, guys.
That is a lie, but thank you. Literally plus 10. I am 34. I was born in
Are you 34 or 33?
34.
Oh, shit.
1985, the year of our Lord.
For some reason, this entire year, I thought you were 33.
Okay, well, no.
Well,
It's just because I look a year younger than I actually am. But today on Cinco de Mayo, I'm really excited because millennials also really love brunch. Mm-hmm. So today I will be brunching for Cinco de Mayo, and it's at my favorite restaurant, and they are serving green chili chicken tamales.
oh shit.
And let me just tell you, I had these a while ago and they were a special, and every single day I'd go back there and ask, do you have the green chili chicken tamales? And they're like, we're not going to have the fucking green chili chicken tamales, so figure something else out you like. You always ask for that. And we always ask for the same waitress, poor thing. So I gave her my number quite some time ago thinking we could be friends. And she's like, hell, I don't want to be your friend, you weirdo. You're just a customer for my job. So then I get a text last week and it said, hey, are you going to be coming in for Cinco de Drinko? Is what she said. I said, probably not. I'm on a diet. I'm getting ready for Thailand. And then she goes, okay, we have the tamales.
So of course you have to go.
And I immediately texted my boyfriend and I said, we are going. And he goes, don't you worry. I know the code word. Tamales means no doubt about it. Rain or shine. We are going to go. So that's where I'm going. And that's why I'm so excited. What about yours? You have a little Latino action going on today.
I do. I think this actually marks the first day in my entire life that I've ever done anything on Cinco de Mayo, and I'm going to a bar called Dos Gringos. Is Dos Gringos is that just an Arizona thing?
Yes.
Or that is just an Arizona thing, right?
Dos Gringos means
Two white
people. White men specifically.
But I have a buddy, Tim Jones. Look him up, like his page. Who is playing a set there between. I don't know if he's playing between 12 and 5, or he can't be playing for a full 5 hours. But maybe he is.
No, he could.
He could be, yeah.
Because you don't play straight through. You take little breaks. You get a beer.
That's true, yeah. So I'm gonna go watch him today and enjoy some. I think they have a $3 beer thing right now, or at least on Dos Equis. I think Dos Equis was
Mexican
the
stuff.
one. Yeah, Mexican stuff, exactly. But they have a really good nacho, so I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, I'm literally just going there, and I'm just gonna sit there and enjoy some beers and listen to my buddy play.
I frequented there quite a few times.
I hope he sings something in Spanish.
I have very often. This is embarrassing, but because you want to eat when you drink, especially when you're feeling festive and Mexican. Yeah, so they have tables, and you can either order with the waitress or keep your bar tab open and just go order up there. So what I'll do sometimes is I'll go to the bar and I'll order the appetizer sampler, because they have a bomb appetizer sampler, and just have it arrive to the table. I'm like, oh, did you guys Did you order this? Does anybody want any of this? Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this. And I will eat the whole thing if no one else shares. And I always secretly hope nobody else shares.
Oh, dude, I am the same way. I always surprise myself in my ability to just scarf down food. Like, sorry, guys, I have a cat in here who's just wreaking havoc right now. But I always find myself in these positions where I feel like most people, when they eat, whether it's junk food or good food, they'll get full at some point. I just won't. I literally just decide I'm going to be done eating. Like, I ordered a large pizza the other day, dude, and I shared some of it with Matthew. But if Matthew wasn't there, there would have been no issue for me to devour that entire large stuffed crust 2-topping pizza on my own.
You must really love your listeners. That was very intimate, and that's something that you don't tell people in public.
That's true. That's true, but I mean, look at me. It's okay to talk about it.
Hashtag me too. If you've ever eaten an entire stuffed crust pizza or any crust pizza by yourself.
I used to... Hold on, everybody. I have a cat I have to take care of. She usually hangs out with us while we do a podcast, but today she's just wreaking havoc in my room. So 1 second.
I have personally never been in this room while this cat was in here where she wasn't wreaking havoc. So
it's a recent thing. She's been really good, but to be fair, we usually podcast at night, and I think she's just tired at night, and right now it's like the early morning, so she's just like, all right, let's fucking do something.
I'll have like $70 left until payday after paying all my bills. So I have like 2 more weeks till I get paid. And I'll still manage to go to like Dos Gringos or something. Have some bargain drinks, right? Because you're like, oh, they're only $3.50 today. It's okay. I'm actually saving money. And then your judgment is impaired and you're like, I'll buy food for everybody here. I have like $52 left.
It's funny though, because it's that same thought process for me that actually helps me save money. Because I look at it in regards of, so I totally get the way that you look at it, but like I take it a step further and I go, well, I always find a way to get fast food or to do this or to do that. So when I say I don't have money for something, it's like, well, I could have the money for something. I just don't choose to, use my saving ability to save for that particular thing.
But my default setting is spend. It's not save. It's not deliberating whether or not I should. It's like, okay, well, we need this. So, like, if I want to go out to eat, what goes through my head is I have to eat. Everyone has to eat. I don't even entertain the notion there was a better option. Right. It's better for me. But for some reason, I just don't mind spending money on food. I regret it later, but I've never I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to. It's like, obviously I need to do this right now.
But my point to that is just as you said, you'll spend money on things that you don't really need to spend money on. And then what happens? You, just as you said, quote unquote, figure it out later. And I think that's a good mentality to have if you just learn to place that in other places. So like right now you're really into traveling, so buying tickets and stuff for traveling and things. And kind of your mentality through this, which is actually differs from mine, ironically, is, I'll figure it out later and you'll just spend the money for it. So, I mean, it really just comes down to what people's priorities are.
Well, right now traveling is definitely a huge priority of mine because my whole life I've always wanted to. There's just always been some reason why I couldn't. I had a job that I couldn't get away from. Or, I just didn't make enough money to even fathom it. Or I just couldn't save money, so I couldn't figure out how to do it.
Right.
And that I actually learned how to practice finding very inexpensive plane tickets. And that opened the door for me because that means it's possible.
Right.
Whenever there's a comma and a price, you don't even really consider it, or I don't even consider it if there's ever a comma. If there's no comma, if it's less than $1,000, then I can usually think about a plan where I can eventually get there.
Right.
If it's anywhere under 600, I will probably figure out how to pull the trigger if it's international.
Right, exactly. And the sad thing is, I feel like most people, even if they don't make as much money as like what you make, and I mean to be fair for people at home, you're I don't want to say average. I guess it's average of like you're not rich is what I'm saying.
No.
You know,
I will say my income is the average household income in America, which is, believe it or not very high.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. Yeah.
It gets me far enough in the great state of Arizona. But there's definitely room for a little doubling or tripling.
Yeah.
You know, and still keeping me in that medium range, or I'm still attractive even if I'm a little bit fat,
Right.
That level.
I feel yeah. I mean, it's interesting though, because you and I, and really what, from my observations, what sparked your whole kind of traveling bug is, and I've seen it too, is we've all have the friends or people that we know who we know for a fact either make, just as much or less than what we do. And we're constantly going on their Instagrams or Facebook, and they're like, "Oh, I'm in Peru today."
I remember having this conversation several times over the last few years, and you're like, "How are you in Spain?" Last week on your Tuesday post, you were in like
Greece or some shit, yeah.
Or you were in. I remember one time I saw somebody that was Barbados, so they were in Barbados, and then it said where to next, and I'm like, oh cool, and then it was literally a week later they were in Spain.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
And so my immediate thing was to hate them and go, why couldn't you find a place where they speak at least a different fucking language if you like to travel so much? Right. And then I was like, no, they just are doing okay. Look, I work in a field where you can make decent money just by going to work and doing your job.
You work off commission.
Yeah, right. I work off commission and a decent hourly. This person was part of the visual department in my same store, and they made a flat hourly that was significantly lower than mine. So I just could not figure it out. And at the time, we both lived in Santa Monica, so I assumed our, elevated rents were about the same.
Right.
So I just started looking into it. And then I have a really good friend. Her name is Vanessa. She is awesome.
Yeah, we tried to get her on the podcast when she was visiting.
It just didn't work out for some reason. She's down to talk, just for whatever reason. It didn't come around that way.
Yeah.
But then she started doing a lot of traveling. Now, Vanessa...
She does extreme traveling,
It's pretty crazy. Like, she will not have any money for her electricity.
Yeah.
And she'll be like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I have a bunch of food in the fridge. And she'll kind of figure it out or borrow it from her dad. And she's like, hey, I'm going to be in Spain for 6 weeks. I'm like, okay, wow. Okay, I need to figure out how to do this. So I just learned a couple of little hacks here and there. And I think when I start getting a little bit more active on YouTube, I'm going to start sharing my process a little bit.
Which I would love to have, yeah.
Well, I think it's cool, especially if a lot of millennials are going to watch it. We're a generation that really, really does at least value travel. With the generation of the internet, you have so much opportunity to see everything and what everybody else is doing.
Well, and it is really inspiring also, having watched some of the videos that you bring up. One particular video that you were watching the other day, or a string of videos, I should say, you were watching the other day, was this gentleman who's younger than I was, I think 24, 25, and he had a Latina girlfriend, and they were living in Bali or something like that, or Barbados. No, they were living somewhere.
They are living... I don't remember where they're living, but the channel is called Lost LeBlanc, and he calls his followers the Get Lost team. and his name's Christian LeBlanc. He has this really cute girlfriend. She's from Peru, and I think she's a YouTube star in Peru. She has the biggest channel in What the Chic, and now I think it's called Kati the Chic.
Interesting.
But anyhow,
I was watching him like visiting. I can't remember where it was, like Bali or something, and they were literally trying to like buy a place there. And like some deal kept like falling through, and then they like finally got it. And then when they did get it, you know, it was very cheap because of where, you know, they were.
yeah,
And compared to how much they make back home. And then, you know, they're like, I don't know, I just remember watching and just be like, if only. You know?
I mean, it's not very cheap. It was cheap for what it was, because he really ended up getting a place that was like, because, you know, when you're big on YouTube, we start making a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it actually came out to being like $11,000 a month, but it was like this tremendous super resort. Like, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was really ridiculous. But you could definitely find a place furnished for like $300 a month.
See, that's crazy.
In like what we would consider paradise.
Yeah. And I mean, the goal is or I guess the key to doing that too is getting a job where, you know, you can travel and still work from just your computer.
It's very, very cheap to be a digital nomad.
Yeah.
If you work from your computer, I mean, where in America do you live for $300 a month?
Nowhere.
Exactly. And with the cost, you know, with the, you know, what the US dollar is in a lot of these countries, you know, a vacation would be going to a place that's really pricey, the Maldives or Tokyo or something just really just incredible. Whereas you can live in Cartagena, Colombia for $300 a month.
Yeah.
You know, you can live for a couple of months in, you know, Bali, Indonesia, or, you know, a Yucatan, Mexico or something, and it's paradise. Literally paradise. I don't know how much work I could get done. I mean, you don't have a desk if you're living in a hostel, or I guess you'd have an apartment. You'd have a place to be. But
Well, I was going to say that the way that from what the videos I've seen, it looks like what these people will do is, you know, I don't know how like leasing an apartment works in some of these other places, but it looks like they get a place, you know, that's maybe month to month, you know, and then they spend 3 to 6 months there, and then they're just like, all right, well, you know, where do we want to go next?
yeah,
And they just do it from there.
I mean, if you're if you're someone who really just wants to live for the experience, I mean, shit, you could live in a hostel for $7 a night.
Yeah.
And just travel the world like that. You know, you could ride your bike all over Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
And just have a good old time. You can book it for a week. You can book it for a day. You know, it's definitely something to look into. I personally have always been incredibly interested in home ownership. It's just something I've always wanted since I was, you know, in probably my teens. You know, your parents have it, so you kind of want it.
I'm the same way, you know.
So that's important to me. I don't think I could ever just live abroad all the time.
Right.
I have to come back to home base. But it's definitely a place where I enjoy putting my money. And you don't get that time back. You know, you need to take advantage of time where you're healthy and you can do everything. You don't have issues with elevation or heart issues, you know, going any place where there's, you know, extra pressure or anything like that. So I think that that's a common theme amongst millennials that I'm noticing is people saying, fuck it. Like, fuck. Well, the thing is, now we see all over what happens when you get old. When you have all this information, you have the internet, you know how many more years you have before something becomes difficult.
Yes. I have kind of different thoughts on that. So I do agree with you that I think that's kind of where this like fuck it attitude kind of stems from. But I do think that the issues that we see people like our parents having, you know, as they get older are not going to be issues for us.
Yeah, because but it's still what we have to relate to.
Well, you're right. It's what we have to relate to. But I mean, I always just look at it as like, I feel like I have, what I'm trying to say is, whereas I feel like some people look at it and go, okay, I have, you know, 10 more years to do this before, you know, my body starts to, you know, fall apart kind of thing. I look at it as like, well, we're the most health conscientious, generation, ever. I think our generation is going to be quite the healthy old people. We're all going to be living 100 plus.
Yeah, but I mean, the harder something is, the less ability you have to really just enjoy it for it being recreational, right?
Right,
So,
yeah.
like, one of my bucket lists is the Lost City Trek in Colombia. Okay, I will be doing that. It's a big priority for me. I will go by myself, and I will go with a group of 10. I don't care who wants to go. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would like to do that before I have any issues with my feet, because in my family, feet issues are huge, tons of them. And I already have these little knots in my feet when I wake up in the morning that my grandmother used to complain about, and she used to say, "Oh, the Arthur's acting up," and it's not arthritis, it's muscular.
Right.
But before I have to worry about that, I want to hike Colombia. I'd like to walk the Great Wall of China. Actually, I don't know if you can walk the whole thing. It's pretty long.
I think you can.
I think people do marathons on it.
I think so also. There was speaking of the Great Wall of China, there was a funny video I saw the other day of the Great Wall where I guess it was super cold there in China, as it usually is. And there was there's a point on one of the points on the Great Wall where it's kind of like a steeper angle going up a hill. And it was just a bunch of tourists basically holding onto the side of the wall, trying to launch themselves up here because it was so cold. There was a sheet of ice. And everybody kept slipping down. And it was like Moses parted the fucking waters. Everybody was just clung to the walls trying to climb up.
Travel hack number 842, go on the off season. Just make sure that you know what you could possibly be facing. If you just want to pack a bikini, don't go when it's going to be cold.
See, and you really like the kind of the more jungly kind of places to visit too, because I know two places you're trying to visit next year, both of which I'm trying to go with you on, is the Colombia trip, which is the trek, and then you're trying to go to Romania in May.
Yes.
Is that what it was?
Yes.
See, and I'm somebody where it's I'm much more excited to go to Romania. Right. I am to go to Colombia.
I'm really excited for Romania because it's just so very different than the other two places that I'm going to be going. It's just a change, I'm excited for a change. I love a beautiful beach. Everyone loves a beautiful beach.
Yeah.
But there's beaches everywhere. It's really culture that I get a little bit more into. So that's why I'm excited for Romania, because other than what I've researched, I have nothing to relate what that culture may be like. The food, it's very, very traditional white people, and I'm not sure I'm going to be... Ooh,
bless you.
Heavy stew and lots of, sausage and cheese and all that kind of thing.
As a white person, I'm very excited for that.
And don't get me wrong, a lot of you've seen my face. I have a lot of white in me.
Yes.
I wasn't really raised in that traditional Caucasian fashion where we ate a lot of sausage and cheese or grilled cheese. I don't even like cheese.
Well, you lived in Mexico until you were 11.
9.
Right? 9, right? I mean, that's the first 9 years of your life.
Yeah, but they love cheese there.
Do they not eat a lot? Do they, though?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like a lot of... And I feel like you've told me this before. I feel like there's a lot of quote unquote Mexican food here in Arizona. And one of the big differences with a lot of them is you said that they usually don't come with cheese. A lot of these traditional Mexican dishes we put cheese on.
Yes. So you are very correct. A lot of cheese never goes on a taco.
Okay.
Ever. And in Arizona, sometimes you see cheese on tacos.
See it a lot on tacos.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of cheese in Mexico. We just don't use it the same way as we do here.
What are dishes that cheese?
Enchiladas are
okay.
huge.
Yeah.
Quesadillas are huge.
Oh, duh.
They go in all burritos. But you don't really see anyone laying a sheet of cheese like we do here, and a lot of we don't put cheese on a well. They have burgers there, and sometimes there's cheese on them, but that's like an American thing too.
Yeah.
But they have queso fresco, which it looks like cottage cheese. Cotija cheese. It's very common in the Oaxaca region, which is like just south of the of center. They have, you know what I'm talking about? It's like crumbly looking cheese.
Yeah, like feta cheese.
Yeah, like Mexican feta, but it doesn't taste like feta at all. From what I hear, I won't eat it because I don't eat cheese. But anyway, no, there is some there. There's plenty. I personally just will not eat it. I think it's disgusting. I will not spend money on something that I think is gross. So why chance it? And I get all of it. Have you ever had Gouda?
Oh, yeah.
Ever had Limburger?
Well, it's funny because I get the same exact responses when it comes to like fish and sushi.
Yeah.
Because I do not like fish or sushi, and everybody else is up in arms about that decision in my life, or not even a decision, just, preference. And same thing, like, well, have you ever had calamari? Have you ever had, have you ever been to Raw? Have you ever? Yes, I've tried all
poke?
of it.
You've had poke,
yeah,
right?
I get all of that. And I'm like, yes, I've literally tried all of it.
To Los Angeles and you didn't like sushi. That's that's how people get to know each other.
There were a lot of things in Los Angeles I actually didn't like. One thing I never got into in Los Angeles that everybody loved was Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles.
Oh my God, I love Roscoe's. I love it.
I was working on I was working on Oz, actually, when I first had it, and they catered for us one day. And it was my first time having it. I was very excited to have it. And I was just like, these two things, one, do not belong together. And, and of course, when it's served on a plate, you get some of the maple syrup on the, fried chicken also.
That's the best.
No, I think that's the fucking worst.
No,
you're like mixing this, this sugar with savory. I don't know. It just, I think you guys are weird.
It's what people do now. Salt and sugar are in.
Oh, trust me.
Salted caramel.
Know. It's like when we go, and I don't like salted caramel either. You want to know what else I don't like? The fries from Wingstop, because they fucking do that shit also.
That's okay. So it's not that anyone else is missing the mark. You are just behind the food trend.
I guess, or I just don't like the food trend. I wouldn't say I'm behind it.
You'll warm up to it.
I try, it's funny. I have actually considered recently, because with like fish and sushi, because fish and sushi is one of those things where I really want to like it.
That's how I feel about fancy cheese.
Yeah, like yes. I really do want to like it. And I kind of equate it, or I try to equate it in my head to like how most of us are before we have, beer. We all hate the taste of beer. And then the more you drink it, you start to acquire a taste for it, yes. Right? So I've almost, I've kind of considered recently starting to try doing that with fish.
Like microdosing?
Yeah, literally just microdosing, like once in a week, like buy a thing of salmon, or go out for sushi and have a couple, like one roll or whatever it is, and just force myself to eat it until I just fucking like it. I'm missing out on a lot of omega-3s. I have a lot of omega-3s to make up for in my life.
I feel like that about cheese. But don't get me wrong, I will stomach it. If I go to France, say, okay, first off, it's very expensive to eat and shop there. So I'm going to get the full experience, and I'm going to eat the damn cheese.
Yes.
I'm going to get a big wooden plate. I'd imagine it in my head, a square block-looking wooden plate, a board, charcuterie board. And I'm going to go to town on some soft, stinky cheese.
Yeah. Well, and I feel the same way about, like, if I were to go to Norway, that serves a lot of, like, blubber. And
ooh, that'd be hard for you. It's literally cold fish.
But, I mean, if I'm there, I have to fucking eat it. You know what I mean? It's like, regardless. But who knows? We're also talking about places where those two things are like their specialty. So I'm sure it's going, I'm sure like the cheddar cheese you buy at the block of cheddar cheese you buy at Walmart here in Arizona is going to vastly differ from, a sample of cheddar cheese that you get in France. You know what I mean?
Yes, I'm sure.
And I would say the same thing with like fish in places that are, more prone to serve fish. But
I'm always really interested in like the Nordic areas, the Scandinavian peninsula, for simply for the contrast. I mean, Thailand to Finland, Yucatan to Switzerland. No, Switzerland's lower, isn't it?
they're
Switzerland's
lower.
by Germany, so I'm thinking of up there. What are they?
Yeah.
Finland,
Finland, Norway, Denmark,
and Sweden.
Sweden. There's another one too I can't think of, but yeah, those are like the big ones though.
Okay. I just got a world map. Adam picked it up for me.
Yeah, we actually had a lot of fun looking at that the other
You'd
day.
be surprised at how much you forget about where everything is, actually.
Yes. Well, and one thing that like kind of blew my mind was, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know there's, over 200 countries, on our planet, but just a lot of the countries out there that exist that it's like you don't even know exist.
Some of them I thought were cities, like Qatar.
You thought Qatar was a city?
Yeah, I thought it was a city in like Turkey.
Oh, wow. No, I knew that one.
I did not know that was a country. And I know a lot of shit,
Mm-hmm.
but for some reason...
Well, and that's what's funny, and it really like made me feel small looking at it, because you see like, for example, one country I know both you and I saw that we didn't know existed was there's a country in Africa called Chad.
Yeah.
And it's a bigger country. It's not like a small little island or anything. It's, a good portion. And, and it was just kind of funny looking at it, and not only had, I never known that was there before, but then I just started thinking, I'm like, wow, there's this country called Chad. They have their own population, their own culture,
Their own people
history.
with their own problems who live in
Yeah.
Chad their entire life.
Yeah, it's like that kind of stuff blows my mind sometimes.
Mine
think
too.
of.
And that is why a big focus on me wanting to travel is culture. Is just culture. Fuck a hotel. Fuck a 5-star hotel. I do not want to go to another country to stay in a fucking Hilton.
I feel you.
I just don't want to. I want to get into the nitty gritty, So when people want to go to France, to the Riviera, so they can go to the beach and stay in a hotel, I just don't get it. I don't understand it. I can't go on vacation with those people, because I promise you, if I'm outnumbered on a trip that I've always wanted to go on, so that we can stay in a hotel,
Yeah.
I'd be so angry. I would be so bitter.
I totally get that. I was even like that growing up on a smaller scale. I remember there was a time I went with a group of friends to Los Angeles before I had lived there. We were I think it was like the summer after my senior year, and me and some friends, planned our first trip without the parents, to like go to Los Angeles and just vacation.
Big deal when you're doing it.
Big deal, yeah. And but I remember while we were there, there were a couple people within our group who wanted to like go bowling or something like that, right? Like they found that they both had worked at a bowling alley at this point here in Arizona, so they kind of just wanted to like check out, oh, what's this bowling alley? And I was very much just like, why? We have bowling alleys in Arizona. Why
That
the
would
fuck
make
do
me
you want to
very,
come
very mad.
here and go bowling? Like, there's all this other shit to do, So I feel the same way when it comes to like traveling and stuff. I think there are some places where I wouldn't go. I mean, I'm definitely down to tag along for anything, but like where I wouldn't, I don't know, it just depends on the place. Like if I'm going to some place like Colombia or Thailand or anything like that, like for sure, like do the hostel thing, because that's, that's kind of the thing you do when you go to those places. But like if I'm going to France or something, I don't need to stay in a 5-star hotel. I'll stay in a more kind of local type of like motel-esque thing, but I don't feel a need to do like the hostel thing in France. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, France is
Or really any place
Western
in
Europe.
Europe.
Yeah. Western Europe in general, I find it to be much more expensive.
Well, it is.
So
yeah.
you just don't go unless you're going to really just do it.
Yeah.
Plus, really, the people aren't the attraction in England. The
No,
people
no,
aren't the
no.
attraction in France.
No.
Okay? Spain, the people are, and in Italy, the people are kind of the attraction. But really, it's the sights that you want to see. It's the things that you've seen a million times that you want to finally see in real life. But if you're going to Chad,
Yeah,
the Chadians are Chadians, right? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Those are the attraction. If you go to Togo, you want to meet the people of Togo. If you go to the Congo, you're going to probably want to see, the jungle and some animals and the people. You want to see how the people live. And if once, the people aren't a focus anymore, then that becomes a luxury vacation, where you don't really care about the culture. And so that's why I'm not in a huge hurry to go to any European country, because for me it's probably just going to be there, with the exception of Venice. Venice, Italy is sinking, and I want to get there before it's gone.
Touche.
So I mean, in Italy, I think I'd just be a lot more interested in seeing over England.
Right. No, I definitely feel you there. It's really just preference. There are some people who, go to those places, and usually you'll get a lot of like hikers who like going to, even if it's the Western European countries, they'll still do the hostel thing and everything, because they're just basically hiking through the entire country, and then they'll go see the sights and everything that are there while they're there. But I mean, just as you said, though, I mean, it's just good to do it while you're young, because you can constantly just buy the plane tickets and stuff. And just as you said, and you and I have talked about it before, with how cheap you can find plane tickets sometimes. Sometimes it could be just as easy of like, oh, let's take, 4 days off of work, on these days, and go to Greece for a couple days.
Greece is a little more expensive to fly, but especially Western Europe in general.
Yeah.
It's funny because if you go to like Africa, no matter what, you're spending at least $1,200
Really?
to fly.
How strange. They're closer to us than...
It's so expensive to fly to Africa. But, I mean, your money goes a long way there. Whereas, I mean, I scored some crazy cheap tickets to Thailand. But usually, that's really expensive, to fly to Asia. And then you get there and your dollar goes a long way. It's quite the opposite with a place like England or Paris.
Right.
Super cheap to fly. I one time saw a trip to England and back. I was just surfing Skyscanner just to see what I could do, and I found a trip for $184.
Wow.
A 5-day trip. Well, a 5-day plane ticket.
Right.
It was very tempting. I mean, how hard would it be to,
Yeah, I mean...
just tell your job, I'm going to London for 5 days. I'm sorry, I scored a ticket for this much.
I was going to say, like...
I'm sure we can work this out.
I was going to say, like, I could literally pay for that in tip money, like a few weeks of tips.
And I found it at 2 a.m. I was just up late surfing the internet, and
but like, why was it just like a season that?
There's a lot of reasons why. So sometimes like a big company will have purchased a whole bunch of tickets, and then they'll drop them all, like refund them or switch to another flight or something. So now they have 30 seats available on a flight that leaves in a week and a half, and they just want to fill them.
Gotcha.
As opposed to having an empty plane. So there's a lot of reasons why tickets could be cheaper, or you might run across a ticket that's strangely cheap, and you're like, all right, well, I'm booking it. And then you realize you have like an overnight 26-hour layover.
Right.
And somewhere lame like Dallas Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Or
But it's like that's kind of the price you pay for, cheap tickets.
Exactly. And there's something to be said for traveling by yourself. I mean, I don't mind traveling by myself. I've done it several times, and it's easy because you just do your own thing. You just go.
I feel like at some point I could be at a point where I could like travel by myself, but like at least anywhere here in the country for sure.
Right. Well, that's where I've traveled by myself.
Okay. Yeah. But like as far as like traveling outside of the country, it's definitely something the first few times at least I'd like a companion with, and then branch off to by myself afterwards. But
I just wouldn't let other people not being able to go or do anything with me be a reason I didn't go.
True.
So
that's a good thing to have. because a
Yeah.
lot of people will do the opposite. They'll say, "Oh, well, I don't have anyone to go with me, so I'm not going to go."
Hell no.
You
My
know?
boyfriend's in college. So for that reason, we really try to plan things for like early January and then right after school's out, like in May.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can't, just due to big work obligations, I can't go in the middle of summer.
Right.
So that leaves us like late August as well. Other than that, I don't make a lot of consideration. And if ever, he was to tell me, I don't think I can make it to this one, I just don't have the money or whatever, I would go.
Yeah.
I would definitely go. This life is too short.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still able-bodied.
Right.
I can still do it. And I speak Spanish, so it's easy to get around those Latin countries. I don't have, if there's a big language barrier, okay, I'd say, try to figure
Yeah.
out how to have somebody with you so you at least have someone going through this with you.
Yeah, exactly. There's I've had those kind of similar thoughts of just that. It's like if I'm going to go to Colombia or something like that, I'd much rather go with somebody like you who can at least, navigate the language.
Or tell everybody, hey, by the way, he's missing. I haven't seen him in 4 days. He might be dead.
Right, exactly. And those are kind of like, I think when it came to like maybe some of the Western European countries, even the Eastern European countries, I'd be more prone to go to those by myself, because if I were to get lost or something, I feel like I could kind of navigate myself back to wherever it is I need to be. But if I go to fucking Colombia by myself or Thailand by myself, and Thailand's different because there's a lot of white tourists there, but
Most places in this world, there's going to be English speakers or
Right.
someone that can speak English. Same with
Yeah.
Spanish, I think,
Yeah.
most of these Latin countries, and then places where they'll speak, bordering, places that border
Yeah.
Spanish-speaking countries. But even as a fluent Spanish speaker, I'd still want someone to go to Spain with me just because it's, very different. Plus, you want memories with other people. But
Yeah,
the
yeah.
inability to create a memory is not worth, the information you download into your mind and the experience that you let download into your mind.
Right.
So I'd, of course, always love for my boyfriend to go with me. But if he just couldn't and I could, that's a fight we can work through another time.
I feel you, dude. Traveling's crazy, man. I hope to kind of jump on that train because I myself have never been outside of the country. I haven't went to Niagara Falls and I never went to the Canadian side.
So the average, I was reading on this article somewhere, probably Facebook, so it has to be true.
Of course.
The average amount that someone spends when they go out is $12 and change.
That makes sense. That sounds right.
Okay, $12 and change. Fast food or sit down or whatever. And they were talking about how everyone has enough money to travel.
Yes. For
Everyone
sure.
does. If you were willing to not eat out, you
Yes.
could take several trips every year.
Well, I've even thought about, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of the podcast, where I was just saying, really did the same thing. Everybody does have the money to go do this stuff because you're using that same money to do other things. I mean, I think about it all the time in terms of, and Matthew and I were just talking about this yesterday on the podcast with like smoking, right? Smoking cigarettes. And one of the big downfalls, aside from the health stuff of being addicted to smoking cigarettes,
Which is the biggest downfall.
is how much money you spend on cigarettes, because your average cigarette smoker is usually about like a pack a day, and packs here in Arizona are like $8-9. So I did the math once, and I'm basically spending close to $300, a month on cigarettes, and then that's not even like including whatever I spend on fast food or extra shit that I don't need that
And
I spend
lighters.
money on, and not even the smoking thing anymore, just in general,
okay.
whether it's like fast food or
just your cigarettes in 2 months gets you to Colombia.
Exactly. And those, but I think a lot of people find themselves in those same situations, even if it's not cigarettes, where you don't realize all this extra money you're spending on shit that you really could live without. I mean, we've seen it too with, when you get your health together, you can buy, you know, just like a slab of meat that will last you like basically the entire week for $5,
Yeah.
as opposed to spending $10 to $12 every day on fast food, which most people do.
You know, we spend our money where we think it's worth it, you know,
Yeah.
whether it's subconsciously or consciously. And the way that you choose to spend your money, I feel like has a lot to do with the type of person you should seek out. You know, someone that can either not seek out, but, you know, eventually find yourself with. You
Yeah.
want to find balance, because I will spend money very quickly on things that matter to me. So food is a big one. I need help a lot in that area. Another one is travel. I own a home, so I go on spurts where I'm get really into projects, and I'll just start putting money into it, and that's good because the money comes back. You know, it raises the value of your house, but it's definitely something that's difficult, and you don't think about the repercussions later. Because one thing that we spend a lot of money on, and it doesn't always pay off the way that we thought it would, is like education.
Yes.
A tremendous
Yes.
amount of money on this education.
And just debt in general. Like, whew.
And you know, we have to really think about, okay, we are spending more money as a society now on services that need tradesmen, right?
Right.
The amount that we spend to get our cars fixed, okay, or to have our like landscaping done and maintained, or I mean, what else? There's plumbing, you know, to have someone come out and fix a toilet or a pipeline or something. Sometimes it's many thousands of dollars. And we don't tell anybody how important it is to just know how to do something that can sustain you, so that way you can go to work, and then leave, right?
Right.
We push higher education on everybody, including myself. I fell for it too, okay? And now we've completely deflated the importance of a degree, and we've completely inflated how important tradespeople are, but for some reason we
Yes.
still can't get it through to this generation how important it is to really embrace if you really love working with your hands.
Well, it's one of those things that unfortunately our generation and I would say, because I think this is more of a Generation Z thing than it is a millennial thing, and although millennials do fall into that category also, but I think it's one of those we're just not going to learn that until, you know, sometimes you got to get slapped in the face to understand that it hurts to get slapped in the face. You know what I mean? So in regards to that, I think we're going to, because right now you have a lot of people who are going to school getting these bullshit degrees in something like, you know, psychology. I know is a big one. A lot of people get degrees in, or gender studies, or, you know, liberal art degrees, things like that. Degrees that really are not going to help you get a job out there in the real world, unless it's a real, like, you know,
Unless you're teaching.
yeah, unless you're teaching, or it's a real like tight niche thing that you're doing, whatever it
But
is.
think about philosophy. Who's going to philosophize
Philosophize
their way
yeah.
to being a millionaire?
Well, and that's just it. If you're getting a degree in philosophy, you better be planning to write a pretty profound book. You know what I mean, or teach it.
Or have a concept that's unlike anything's ever
Right.
heard so far.
But unfortunately, right now, everybody gets these degrees in these things, and they think they're going to make a living doing it at some point. And the fact of the matter is they're not. But it's one of those things to where it doesn't matter how many times people tell them you're not going to be able to make a living in this. They're going to still do it. They're still going to try. And then they're going to find themselves in this position
Well,
where
when
they
you're
don't have jobs.
Young, dumb, and full of opinions. And you think you know everything, because I mean, I really thought I knew everything. Mm-hmm. And the smarter you get, the more you realize you didn't know shit.
Oh, man. Ignorance is so bliss, man.
And
it really
isn't
is.
it cringy when you look back and you're like, I was certain that at this point in my life, if you asked me at 35, where would I be? I mean, I was doing, you know, lectures at a different Ivy League university, like, you know, every 2 weeks. And I
Yeah.
was selling out lecture halls. And then on the weekends, I was performing at the Met,
Right.
you know. And
Oh, yeah. I mean, and same here. You know, we don't realize until life comes and smacks you in the face. But like that's the issue a lot of these people run into is they sit there and they go, oh, you need to do, like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna, I'm going to school for, gender studies or whatnot, and people just don't understand that those things aren't going to pay. And just as you said, tradesmen, is really what is where it's at. And I think you're going to see a lot of these people who get these degrees and these bullshit things, and then all of a sudden they're going to find themselves like doing these jobs anyway. It's so sad too, because when it comes to tradesman jobs, like, there really is good money.
There's great
in
money.
it.
I saw a meme that was amazing that it said, remember in elementary school, remember in third grade when your teachers told you if you didn't do a good job in school, you'd be the trash man?
Yeah.
Why didn't that bitch tell you that the trash man makes double what she makes?
Yeah, exactly. Like shit like that all the time. And going back to like when we're in elementary school and stuff, I feel like we were raised maybe not being like told this, but it was definitely implied in the teachings that you're not going to be able to make a decent life being a plumber or an electrician or...
But they never tell you we won't make a decent living being a teacher.
Yeah, exactly. They don't tell you
fucked up
any
is
of that shit.
There was a girl in high school named Adria Mashburn, and her dad owned Mash Trash, right? They were loaded.
Oh my gosh.
Loaded. And so everyone kind of wanted to talk shit that, like, her dad's the trash guy.
But
while he may smell like beer cans, she's loaded.
Yeah.
She was the girl that showed up for the East Coast trip with her check, thinking, oh, we don't pay today. No, this is an entire meeting talk about how we can figure out how we can pay for it. Oh, well, here's my check. And leave. To her, not being able to do something because there was not enough money was not...
It was just
and this is the daughter of the trash guy.
Yeah.
So don't talk shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Teach your children life hacks. We always want to know life hacks.
Oh, there is one.
Well, one thing that's not a life hack is work your ass off, stress yourself out, take out a tremendous amount of student loans, be in debt, go to school for 4 years until you realize you still need to go to school for 2 years to rise above anybody else with your degree because now everybody has one. You graduate with that. And now, even though you're making, say you're making $100,000 a year, okay, but you have $200,000 in student loan debt. Okay, my payments for $30,000 or about $320. So imagine for 7 times that.
Ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous.
You're probably looking at it. I mean, we're going to nicely say $1,300.
Yeah, easily.
So, yeah, making $100,000 a year, $1,300 of that after tax, is now going to student loans.
Well, and that's what's so sad about it. And a lot of these trade schools, it's they're 9-month to a year programs, and then all of a sudden you're just in it. After that you usually do like an apprenticeship for maybe another year or two, and then but you're still making money while you're doing that apprenticeship. And then I have a friend I went to elementary school with who didn't really go to college or anything, and he took like a 9-month program for like HVAC stuff. And now he does that for a living. He's my age. He owns a house. He bought himself this really nice Harley motorcycle. And this
Do I know this person?
You may have met him once.
Okay.
But you may not have though also.
Okay.
It's been a while since I've even seen him.
Just curious.
But anyways, so he's this HVAC guy now, and he makes way more money than I do, and way more money than I would argue that you do. And it's just from going to school for 9 months and just learning a trade.
If I saw my son, which I do not have one, nor do I wish to have one, playing with garbage trucks and being obsessed with the garbage man when he saw him walk out and wanted to know where the garbage went after, it was taken away.
Right.
And for his birthday asked to go where the trash goes to die or the trash cemetery or whatever. Dude, I wouldn't necessarily love that, but this kid really, really, really wants to know about the refuse process.
Yeah.
And I would culture that, and I would make sure that he understood that. I mean, I'd make him learn how to like play an instrument and
Right.
do good in school and stuff too. Cause but we dog on tradesmen. We're horrible with money. Who are we to say that somebody else is wrong?
Yeah, no kidding though. And that's a really good point to end on here, because too many times, first of all, it's funny how we were kind of, like I said, raised with, not even just with our parents, but just teachers and everything, kind of being taught that these are like lower grade jobs, to get. But just as you said, like, who are we to fucking judge? We look at these people with, who their job is to take out the trash every day. And we're sitting there like, the trash man. Meanwhile, he's going, yeah, well, you have $150,000 in student debt and you don't even have a job in your field.
And I'm bringing $80,000 a year in for taking your trash out. Yeah. Talk shit, bitch. Go ahead.
Exactly. And too many people, I think, I almost feel like going to college anymore is a way to justify your pompous attitude anymore. At least that's the way people treat it, I feel.
I think it's wanting to fit in. Look, I did really well in high school. My parents told me to go to this junior college to save money, and I looked at them appalled, like, how dare you? I did not work this hard to go to Burnout University.
Right.
Thank you. Look back, you're like, oh, wow. Parents do know something.
Yeah.
They don't know a lot about what you go through being a kid, or being a teenager, because everyone's different.
Well, it's different. And it's different generations, too. That was one thing my parents always told me, that always, just a final note here because we're at time. But what my parents always told me was like, if I was bothered by something, they'd be like, we know because we went through it when we were younger. Oh, God, too.
I hated that.
And I'm just like, and then, even as I get older, I'm like, okay, well, maybe you did to an extent, but guess what? You didn't have the technology that I have. You didn't have the kind of upbringing that I had. You guys made very sure that I didn't have the same kind of upbringing that you guys did. So why do you get to say like, oh, I understand? It's like, well, no, you don't, because it's a very different situation than what you were in.
That's just another side of the argument when you learn that your parents are also just people.
Yep. They're humans just like the rest of us.
But that's another podcast, isn't?
That's
a good episode.
That is a good one. We'll have to put that one in the bank.
Parents are just people.
Parents are just people.
All right.
To be continued until next time.
Happy Cinco de Mayo. I'm about to have a couple of drinks and some tamales.
Thank you guys so much for joining us on today's podcast. Remember, you can find us on all the social media platforms, and we do have a Patreon you can donate to. That's www.patreon.com/hardlymillennial. And any final thoughts, Justin?
Just don't forget to travel.
Don't forget to travel. All right, everybody, have a lovely Cinco de Mayo. Be safe and get hammered.
Bye.